exactly the same time that Beckett got sick when he was almost 2, Clementine got sick. Beckett was inpatient, and I'll never forget our nanny called me and said, Clementine's not acting right. I'm going to take her to the emergency room. And her calling me and saying they're bringing her up in the helicopter, and me going from the 11th floor where Beckett was downstairs to the emergency room. And there was Clementine, and I laughed because I said, oh, well, I'll always think about that 4th of July that both the kids were inpatient at the same time. And it really hit me then that we had no idea what we were doing. And we had the best. I mean, people fly from all over the world to be at Boston Children's, and they couldn't help us. I mean, they were brilliant. Excuse me. The pharmacist was literally making our medication in-house. Like, we didn't go to a pharmacy. We went to Children's and went to the basement, which no one ever goes to, and that's where we picked up our meds. Just really intelligent people, the best minds working together, and they just couldn't get it together. We couldn't hold them up long enough. And I remember Clementine, when we went in for that final time, we were there for 8 weeks, and the first few weeks we could not get her stable. She would be fine and then bottom out within hours of being fine, and then we get her okay, and then she would bottom out. And I remember when we were at the hospital, it was different than being home. When we were home, it's very removed. We're 2 hours from the city. So when we were home, we were hanging out. We were having a good time. We're going to the movies. We're having friends over. We're going to birthday parties. Like, it was good. We were good. In the hospital was where all the sickness was. It was hard, and it was long, and it was taxing on us as a family. I remember when we had to start considering going home on hospice, and Ben was gone. He went home to work, I think. And it was me and the kids up at the hospital. And I'll never forget, I was out to lunch. I came back because they called me back to the hospital. Oh no, you were with us. You were home. You were there. Was
that in Louisiana?
No, we were home. We came home. We were there at the hospital, not home. But we were out to lunch. They called us back to the room. And Beckett was getting worse. And the doctor sat us down in a conference room, and I never have good feelings when we sit down like that. Especially because the nurses, we were so close with them that the minute you walked in, you knew that you were getting bad news. And so we sit down, and the attending in the MICU, who we love dearly, he's a wonderful man, he said, it's now or never. He's like, you can either let him, he needs to have surgery. He was getting sepsis from his port placement in his chest. And so we needed to make a choice. We could do surgery and remove the port and hope the infection goes away, which he'll probably die if he goes in under the knife. Or you can take him off life support. I mean, you could take him off the ventilator and just let him die, let the infection run its course. And Ben and I looked at each other, and at that, we had never agreed on DNR or hospice or going home at that point. I mean, we couldn't even talk about it. And we talk about everything, and people knew that was a point of contention between the two of us. And at that moment, we looked at each other, and I remember Ben saying, we'll do the surgery, and then that's it. And I thought, oh, that's exactly what I want to do. We decided to do the surgery. Beckett did almost die having it taken out. Once he healed from the infection, we went home, and that was it. We made the choice. Our quality of life had gotten so poor at that point. And when I say our, I mean as a family. Julia was missing a ton of school at that point. Just because she liked being with us, and we thought that the schedule that we had, we kept it up at the hospital. But she was missing a lot of school. She was missing her friends. It was difficult. It was hard. And so we decided, you know what? We'll go home while we have the chance. I was petrified that we would get stuck in the hospital and that we wouldn't be able to go home. But we were lucky. We got home. And we got to do it our own way.
I'm always glasses half full kind of guy, almost to the point where it's my curse. If there's a minute chance that something I want to happen can happen, I will do everything I can to make it happen. And I had just really, I just came home from a war zone when we had Beckett, and it wasn't, very wasn't very like I don't know how to say it other than it was just a lot of bad things happened, and saw a lot of amazing things happen at the same time. A rocket literally blew up. 200 pounds of explosives blew up right underneath my boots, and here I stand in front of you today. And I've seen kids get shot in the head and live. Those same kids live today in the world. And just all kinds of extraordinary, what people would call miracles. I don't know if they're miracles. I don't know if it's right place, right time. I don't know if, you move 2 inches to the left, maybe you're not so lucky. But I literally just stepped off the plane, it felt like, and then this happens. And especially as I alluded to before, with these great medical teams by your side, making you feel like, hey, these are our kids too. We got your back. Mm-hmm. For me, there was just no way I could even think about Beckett passing. Clementine was still young, and I kind of used Beckett as like the gauge. Like, okay, so Beckett was supposed to live this long. He's now 1, and Clementine's just a baby. So Clementine clearly is going to live to be 1. They already had, they have all this knowledge about Beckett they're going to use on Clementine. So Clementine will probably, get like kind of almost, precursors. They'll know what to do right off the bat. And I kept on holding on to that and holding on to it and holding on to it and seeing, that was also the other thing was there was never a time where the lead, Ed Nealon, who was our lead primary doctor who called and checked up on these kids, who was, checking up with every other specialist to see if they were on his page. I never saw any doubt in his eyes. I'm pretty good at reading people. And he was just one of those guys that he really did think that he could prolong this forever. Like, he was coming up with all these really, like, he was driving everyone else nuts. He literally went to China to get some of this medicine for the kids, these synthetic replacements that made their Krebs cycles work correctly. They went and, oh God, I probably shouldn't even say it on camera, but they went all over, every edge of the earth to get the things they needed for these kids. So, with that kind of person in your corner, for me, it was hard to be like, there's no way that we're not going to just keep on beating this thing. And, I was kind of blinded to how much Beckett was suffering through all these endeavors, and Clementine soon followed suit and actually got sicker than Beckett did. Clementine fell really sick. To the point where they couldn't keep her stable in the hospital for more than, a day at a time. Mm-hmm. And, again, it came to the point where I see these kids and they don't even realize it, but they're suffering. Like, they're just in pain, dire pain. Stuff that, like, if it happened to an adult, you or I, if our ammonia levels got that high, we'd crumble. But they didn't know any better. So when I got to that point, when I finally kind of like, I felt the turn in the winds, I felt the certain nurses on our team had this look in their eye like, oh, like, God, how much more kind of thing. That was kind of the talk you kind of start hearing, and it kind of clicked in my head like, am I just being blinded to this because I can't handle it? Like, am I holding on to this false hope because it's better for me as opposed to them? And as she said, there was that one big day where another doctor who we are pretty close with said, these are kids, there's going down in flames and there's dying in your mother's arms. And he said it to me just like that. And it's hard for a guy like me who's an infantryman who's like, yeah, flames, let's do that. But yeah, not sweet little Beckett and Clementine. It's just not the way to do it. It's not this is not how they were supposed to go. They're not supposed to go. They've had all this great care so that they can come home. Like, that's why they're here. And luckily, I have a very convincing wife who basically didn't take no for an answer and made it so that we found that window to get discharged when other kids would have never got let go. Yeah, she was like, listen, here's the deal. Like, I know they're on X, Y, and Z and they have central lines. We're going home. You can come with us on this one or you can battle it out with me, but they're going home. And they all knew, because my wife is a very strong-willed woman.